If you're a long-range enthusiast like I am, you know there's that never-ending quest trying to find the ultimate DMR cartridge in the AR15 platform. And it seems to me the trend going these days is going with a longer, sleeker, high BC bullet and stuffing them in a short, stubby case in order to mitigate the mag restrictions of this platform. And in the past few years, a few cartridges came out to kind of give that 1,000 yard plus performance with reduced recoil, like the 224 Valkyrie, and also in early 2020, the 6mm ARC from Hornady. Now, those that follow my channel know I absolutely love the 6mm ARC. It's been a great performer in my bolt guns, but it's been a struggle for me in the AR-15 platform. And in my opinion, unless you're pushing 105 grain projectile in the 6mm ARC at over 2,700 feet a second, the performance of that cartridge isn't any much better than a 6.5 Grendel. And let's face it, the 6mm ARC has been around in the Wildcat world for quite a while. Hornady has basically stole it. So I'm just going to call it out there. But speaking of Wildcats, sometimes there's something in the Wildcat world that basically is just a really great performer. And today we're going to look at a Wildcat called a 22 Grendel. Now this little short stubby case, though this is loaded up with a 55 grain projectile for fireforming, is a really great performer. Where the 224 Valkyrie fails on brass life and performance, the little 22 Grendel excels. So what I mean is, this little cartridge here is capable of pushing a 95 grain projectile at over 2,800 feet a second out of this AR that's a 22-inch barrel. So let's take a look at this Wildcat, see how it performs downrange, how to convert the brass, and how to load for it, coming up right meow. So the 22 Grendel isn't much of a difference if you look at it, which is going to be the A-tip on the left here. That's a 22 Grendel. In the middle, that is a 6 ARC, and on the right, that is a 6.5 Grendel. Now, all the way in the far left is the 224 Valkyrie, as you can see in case comparison. You can see where the 224 Valkyrie kind of fails in overall length. Now, the 22 Grendel is capable of pushing a 95 grain projectile at mag length at over 2,800 feet a second. So it makes this cartridge very versatile in an AR-15. So converting the 6 ARC brass to 22 Grendel is actually pretty simple. Taking 5 brass and 6 ARC, the first thing that I do is I run it to a factory crimp die that is a factory crimp 6 ARC. And what it's going to do is basically give a little taper on the actual neck. So this allows it to basically go into the bushing die and slide in there without it crushing the case. Next thing, obviously, with the lube case, run it through a fulling sizing die, and what I'm using is a Redding bushing die, a fulling sizing die type S, and it has a 250 bushing in there that I made. So fulling sizes it, it'll go down, obviously station 2 will prime it, and you got yourself a 22 Grendel case. So I have loaded up CFE 223 in the hopper, and I'm at 28.2 grains. We'll go ahead and run it through the stations here. And lastly, it'll be the bullet seating die using the Universal Frankfurt Arsenal bullet seating die. 2.245 is what I'm using for the 88 grain ELDMs. And then last station will be the factory crimp die, which is also the 6 ARC factory crimp die. So that's basically how I load the 22 Grendel, and we are ready to go. After fireforming the brass using 55 grain bullets, I went ahead and did an initial load development with 88 grain ELDs and 90 grain ATips. And the performance right out of the gate was pretty impressive. Though these are only 3-shot groups, I managed to pull away a .27 inch with the 88 grain ELD and a .32 with the ATips. Alright, to test the performance of the 22 Grendel downrange, we have a series of targets we're going to test and measure group size at 385, 665, and 985. So in this mag I have loaded up some 90 grain ATips, and these are traveling from my initial load development 2930 FPS. So we'll see how these things work downrange. Huge shout out to the guys at Tacticam for the footage you're going to see downrange through my SIG Kilo 5000 BDXs. So let's get to it. First target up, 385. It's calling for 1.5 mils, and looking at the ballistic chart from Straylock, it's got some pretty impressive numbers. Thing's pretty much a freaking laser, to be honest. So we'll see if that holds true. Let's get to it. All right, first round impact. That hit bottom right. Let's see if we just hold that same group again. Okay, same spot. Got feeding. All right. So that seemed to work. It looked like it went up a little bit. That last shot was dead center. So we'll try 665 next. Okay, 665. It's calling for 3.9 mils. 3.9 mils. We'll hold 4/10 for wind. See where that puts us. Okay, that looked low. Let's come up to 4.2. And that looked almost dead center. So 4.2 is the elevation hold. Let's try that one more time. Okay, 3 shots there. Group isn't that good, but that could be from the initial load development. All right, next target is 985. So let me go ahead and readjust that Tacticam. All right, first target at 385 yards is boasting a 3.5 inch group. So right about MOA. And so that's not the best performer, but then again, this is just some quick load development and seeing its performance out of the gate. So the one thing to take in mind is the elevation hold only being 1.5 mils at this distance. So this thing is acting like a laser. Now let's go check out the next target, 665 yards. All right, so this target here is kind of a tricky little target. Right down this valley, I usually get some switchy winds, which ends up kind of making a swirl right here, some left to right movement. However, the winds are pretty calm today, about 1 to 2 miles an hour. But the 665 group isn't too promising. Looking at roughly, let's see, 9.5 inch. So that's not looking too good. These two were back to back with each other, and then looks like we had some standard deviation issues there. So velocity on this shot was probably a lot lower. So maybe next time I'll bring out my magneto speed. However, the 985 yard target is showing some pretty good promise. So let's check that out next. All right, the last target of the day, the 985 yard target. Like I said, this is about an MOA target. It's a 10-inch plate. And we have 1, 2, and 3. So that is a pretty damn good group at this distance. And we are looking at roughly 4-inch group. So right about half MOA at 985 yards. And the last adjustment on my scope on this rifle is saying 7.8 mils. So this is right in line with the dope of my 6-arc bolt action rifle, and the performance is right in par. So one thing I didn't talk about on this rifle build, and basically what it is, this is a Palmetto State Armory lower and upper, and I do have a white oak ornament handguard. Now this barrel is a rifle length gas system barrel. It is a thick grill. So how I have this set up is basically 1 inch behind the gas block, obviously a 936 gas block, and then I have it stepping back up to 980 thousandths. So this is a thick grill, and obviously the handguard is a skinny handguard. I didn't have another Aero Precision M4E handguard, so what I ended up doing was basically kind of chopping off about 1/4 of an inch off the handguard just to sit behind the gas block. Now the gas block system is a JP gas block, just like the 6-arc that I build. And the bolt carrier group is an Aero Precision with a JP bolt. And I actually like this setup pretty well with the skinny handguard and having the gas block right outside the handguard. Makes it very easy to get to. And that was kind of my my thought process about this, because some of these handguards, they don't have the M-lock slot in the right position where it doesn't cover that adjustment screw on the handguard. So obviously I'm rocking out a Night Force scope, and this is the NX8 scope, 2.5 to 20, and that's a phenomenal scope. It has a Mil XT reticle and obviously Magpul furniture. In the front here, I got the Dead Air Sandman S 30 cal suppressor. Very easy to take on and off with just a couple clicks. Make sure I don't, there you go, it is on there, there you go. Couple turns here, pull it right off, and there's a muzzle brake. So awesome setup. You know, the initial load development with this rifle is looking pretty promising. I honestly think the 88 grain or 80 grain projectile is going to be the cream of the ball for this DMR rifle. Given the velocities of 3,100 feet a second, it'll make the actual elevation hold around 6.8 mils is what it's saying. So performance so far out of the 22 Grendel, it is phenomenal. The only caveat to it is finding reliable mags, and the only thing I've seen so far that works really good are the Dura mags, which look like the banana clips, like the AK mags. So those seem to work very well. So folks, this concludes my first initial testing of the 22 Grendel in the AR-15 platform. Now, is this going to replace my DMR rifles in 6 ARC? I don't know, but the performance downrange that I've seen so far today is pretty impressive. The actual elevation holds and windage are in par with my bolt action 6 ARC. So that's telling me that this cartridge is very efficient. Now, is it a barrel burner? Honestly, I don't think it is. And how I judge that is basically after my string of shots, if I could grab the barrel after 10 shots and it doesn't burn my hand, well, to me, that's going to be a perfect balanced cartridge and not overboard or underboard. So that said, I was able to grab the barrel, and even though this is a thick grill, after 15 shots, and it didn't burn my hand, this being suppressed as well. So like I said, this is the first initial test. Obviously, downrange performance as far as group size wasn't the best. And this is the reason why not only do I load development at 100 yards, I go ahead and actually test it downrange to see the results. So like I always said, and I always stress this, if you're doing load development, don't just go off 100-yard groups. Go ahead and test it at your effective range. And for this rifle's purpose, it's going to be within 1,000 yards, or around 1,000 yards. So we'll do some more further load development. I think the key for having this DMR cartridge shooting very well and very flat will be going with the 88 grain or maybe the 80.5 grain burgers. So we'll see what that does. I'm going to get a hold of some of those and do some load development with that. Again, this 22 Grendel could definitely push those heavy grain projectiles at over 3,100 feet a second. So yeah, I'm pretty impressed so far. I'd like to know what you guys think. Comment below. As always, y'all stay safe out there, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.